Hey everybody, Pastor Jared here. I want to tell you about our mission challenge at Calvary Hills Baptist Church. And this is not some one-time event. This is the DNA of our church. This is who we are going to be over the next 10 years as a church and what our goals are as far as it comes to missions. So if I gave you the statement, I believe you prepare differently when there's a challenge on the table. Most of you would agree. Now, let me say what I mean by that. If I told you that my goal is generally to get in better shape, or if I said, I want you to generally get in better shape, okay? Some of you would do different things. You might stretch in the morning. You might take a walk at night, maybe walk a half mile around your neighborhood. Take your dog for a walk every day. Cut fast food and sodas out of your diet. It would all be different, and it would be little things that are beginning to get you more in shape. Now, if I said, in 6 months, you have to run 1 mile in under 7 minutes, okay? That's the challenge. Run a mile in under 7 minutes, and you have 6 months to do it. All of a sudden, you're training very differently now. You're changing what you're doing. You don't have time to sort of ease into things. You've got to have a plan. You've got to go at it and say, okay, well, right now I can run a mile in 9 minutes or 10 minutes, and that means I've got to hit some certain benchmarks along the way to make sure that I'm on track, or else I'm not going to make the challenge. I give you that example to say, I believe that in the life of a church, we are best served when we have goals that we set before ourselves that are measurable, things that we can say we are on track to hit these goals. We can say generally we want to be a church that's on mission, but I think it's possible that you look up and look back at your last 10 years and say, well, we did some nice things, but did we hit the mark? And maybe not even know what the mark is. So what I want to do is give 6 very specific challenges to us that we're going to hold. And they're going to be an increasing investment and possibly difficulty, okay? And having these goals is going to change the way we behave now. So we have something to shoot for, all right? So the first goal is going to be relatively simple, and it's going to be mostly for our church mission committee and those involved in planning. And it's that we need to have a quarterly event where we are creating scenarios where our church believers are meeting, investing with, connecting with, befriending, coming in contact with unbelievers in our community. So very simple. We ought to be having opportunities for Christians to be coming in contact with non-Christians, okay? So that's our job, is to help you to maybe meet people in the neighborhood that you would never meet before. So 4 times a year, we need to, and these are all minimums, by the way. These are all, we can do more than this, but these are the minimums to know, hey, did we hit the mark? So 4 times a year, we ought to be, as a church, intentionally connecting with our community, people in our neighborhood, in a planned event that we've made this happen, okay? So that's number 1. Number 2 is we ought to be sending a mission team somewhere outside of our local area at least once a year. So for me, it doesn't matter if it's Oklahoma, Tennessee, Colorado, California, Alaska, or if it's Mexico, India, Italy, think of any country in the world. It doesn't matter to me. Once a year, though, we need to be getting outside of ourselves, because God is a big God and he's doing more than just what's under our nose in our community. We need to see that, and we need to invest in unreached peoples all over the globe. So once a year, we need to be getting outside of our little bubble of San Antonio here. Number 3, this is for you personally. You, as a member of our church, I'm challenging you to set a goal to lead one person to Christ per year. To do your best. Now look, it's up to God in the end. Only God determines who becomes a Christian. God convicts the heart. God draws people to himself. And ultimately, it's a decision between that person and God, yes. But I believe if we're faithfully sharing the gospel, if we're out working for the Lord and really doing our best to sow gospel seeds in the relationships of our lives. We should possibly see some fruit from that, right? So I'm going to hold that challenge out there that we can know, are we on track? If a year, 2, 3, 5, 10 years go by and we're not leading anybody to Christ personally in our lives, I think you have to question it and say, are we doing it? Is something broken here? So that's your challenge, 1 per year. And those are real people. That's not just a check on a box. That's going to mean that you have to really be investing in unbelievers in your life. You're going to have to be making friends with people outside of your bubble, your circle, to ensure that you're on track. Number 4 is that as a partnering church, we should be every 2 years making an investment in a church revitalization, a church plant, a church replant, some work in our area. Now, that's not as the mother church. That is coming alongside as a partner. So perhaps there's a struggling church who needs our people, needs our finances, needs service days where we go and help spruce up their place, do things that maybe they're unable to do, hold a VBS for them. Whatever it looks like, we come alongside them as a partner and say, let us, a like-minded church, step in and help you and prevent the slide, decline, and death of your church. Or as you're a new church plant, let's get you going faster. Let's be the hands and feet of Christ in your church. So every 2 years, we ought to be looking outside of ourselves to make a sizable, and I don't mean a $100 check. I mean a sizable investment or recurring partnership with a church plant or a church revitalization or a replant. Number 5, every 5 years, I believe we ought to be sending out a missionary, a pastor, a minister, someone going to seminary, someone committing their life to Christian service. That could look like a lot of different things, but I believe if the Spirit of God is present and active and the gospel is being preached in a church and leaders are being trained and raised up, we ought to be sending people out. I don't want to be a church that says, pastors come from seminary. No, they don't. They come from local churches and they may be trained at seminary. Missionaries, that passion to reach the lost is born in a local church. And so we ought to be sending people to the mission field, not just celebrating other churches sending people. We ought to be sending people to the mission field. We ought to be training and raising up pastors and youth pastors and executive pastors and whatever that might be. So I believe we can do that, which means we have to start training people. I have to start training pastors under me that I can send out or maybe can take my job. You never know. So that's every 5 years. I think that's a mark of health that somebody is rising up out of this congregation to either serve here, serve somewhere locally. Maybe that's a church planter that we send out. Maybe that's someone that says, God's called me to the mission field, and we support them every 5 years. And the last one, every 7 years. So this is the 6th initiative. It's the big one. I believe a healthy church ought to be planting churches or revitalizing churches as the primary mother church. So you heard me talk about partnering before. This is not partnering. This is we are sending the church planter. We are financially supporting the church planter. And we are training and coaching and remaining in a multi-year partnership with the church plant. We are owning it. It is our church plant. And we're seeing it through until there's a self-sustaining, autonomous church body. That is what it looks like to plant a church. Or we could be a revitalization where we fully adopt a struggling church that's looking to revitalize. And we own that until it's complete. So I believe every 7 years, we should at least be doing that. It could happen faster, but every 7 years is the challenge. So church, you've seen 6 big challenges that I've given. These are going to govern our mission strategy. Now, there's going to be all sorts of other things that we do over the course of the years. 7 years will come and go, and we'll do other things than those 6 initiatives. But if those are in the back of our mind, we're going to act differently. If I know that I need to be leading somebody to Christ this year, I got to start thinking, we're 4 or 5 months into this year, and I've only shared the gospel twice. I better get to it or else I'm not going to hit the mark. Or, hey, our calendar only has 3 planned missional events. We have to plan another one. Or, hey, I haven't let somebody preach yet this year for me while I've been here. How am I training up leaders if I'm preaching every Sunday? It's not going to happen. We haven't planned a mission trip. Looks like we got to plan a mission trip. Let's think about it. So these things are going to be on our mind, and they're going to govern what we do. And this is going to be a part of our church and how we act missionally. So I hope that this is something that you'll adopt with me, church. I hope that you'll get just as passionate with me. These things are not going away. I want you to help me keep these on the forefront of what we do. So thank you. God bless. And let's take the mission challenge together.